Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And welcome to another campaign update from your favorite mayoral candidate. What's the name? Aaron Benjamin Miles. Aaron Benjamin Miles. 110th Mayor of New York City, Rise of the Good People campaign, Aaron Benjamin Miles. Aaron Benjamin Miles for the Rise of the Good People, independent candidate, 110th Mayor of New York City, Aaron Benjamin Miles. I'd like to take a moment of silence to acknowledge, to give praise to the Most High. And I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge all of our ancestors without whose protection, guidance, and wisdom, I could not have made it as far as I am today. All praise to the Most High, and acknowledge our ancestors without whose protection, guidance, and wisdom we would not be where we are today. Aaron Benjamin Miles. Aaron Benjamin Miles. This is my docu-series entitled Before Becoming Mayor of NYC, which I've been tracking my progress towards becoming the next mayor of New York City for the last 2 years. So if you want to see some of my journey over the last 2 years towards becoming the next mayor of NYC, just go to Before Becoming Mayor of NYC, Aaron Benjamin Miles. And today, I have a very interesting topic. You about to worry me to death. You are about to worry me to death. Communities of color are being worried to death. I know if you're like me and you grew up in an environment how I grew up with a lot of stress, noisy kids, my grandmother, my mother, my aunt, they was always so busy. And I distinctly remember hearing different ones of them. My grandmother, sometimes my mother, different ones of my aunts, maybe even sometimes some of my uncles every now and then. They will always say, about to worry me to death. My grandmother especially, boy, you about to worry me to death. You about to worry me to death. I used to think that was a figure of speech, figurative. I don't think that today the Most High have given me the wisdom, the ancestors have given me the insight to discover the fact that worrying me to death is not figurative. It's literal, and it's actually one of the very sophisticated techniques and strategies that the advocates of the white agenda have been using against our communities of color. You about to worry me to death. My mother was a victim of this, and so was my grandmother. A lot of our loved ones are victims of this and dying of this, and we will call it dying of natural causes because you didn't see anyone attacking them. You didn't see the faces of the assaults, the people who are assaulting them. You don't see the people who are assaulting you right now. Many of us right now are dying by way of worrying to death. Them advocates of the white agenda, they are so clever. You are so clever, Mr. Advocate of the white agenda. I have to really give it to you. And had I not been so blessed with being a creative thinker and being able to think outside the boundaries and the limitations you set for us, I would not have discovered this very enlightening and interesting strategy. Communities of color are being worried to death. It's a very subtle technique, which means all of the conditions are set purposefully to enforce this strategy of worrying communities of color to death. Not being able to pay your bill, and then not having enough money. A lot of it evolves around monies because you have to always go ask for it from the advocates of the white agenda. And they purposefully set this up in this way so that you have to repeatedly come to them to make these requests that they know they're going to repeatedly reject you. And each time they reject you, it adds a little more worry to your condition until the condition perpetuates and advances a physical state that at some point in time gets to a point of no return. I have an ulcer from my being worried to death. Although now I am in much more control of my environment, to allow myself peace of mind. The time in which it took me to get to this stage in my life was inadequate to avoid the complications of my situation to the point of no return. Meaning, I didn't reach this destination of tranquility soon enough to avoid the complication of my physical condition, which will now have to run its course. So my life will be mortal, as all of us are. But now I know this is a condition that absolutely will play a part in my termination. And it came all from the conditions of advocates of the white agenda worrying me to death, worrying about my mother when she was here and sick, watching her worry so much, watching your loved ones worry makes you worry. It's a chain reaction. Young people have already started on their journey of being worried to death. That's why the police come in our neighborhood. And it's confusing to the young people because a lot of parents teach the young people, the children, to respect law enforcement and to, you know, they teach them not to be guarded. They teach them to lower their guards in reference to law enforcement, because most of them are not aware of the fact that law enforcement is infiltrated and full of all of these actors who are domestic terrorists and white supremacists and advocates of the white agenda who are going to come into your community to worry your children to death. They're going to agitate them and stress them out. Only in our neighborhood. You go in their neighborhood, the conditions which influence, the conditions which, trying to think of the right word, the conditions which stimulate, the conditions which support these worried to death type strategies or worried to death conditions, the stress, they're absent from their communities. Oh, these guys are so clever. They're so conscious of it. They have rabbits in their community and parks, and they like fluffy, fuzzy dogs, clean streets, quiet neighborhoods, no conflict with law enforcement, plenty of healthy food whenever you want it, no problem paying bills. They know those conditions are absent, or the stress in those conditions is absent. So there's no chance of them being worried to death. That's why they always anticipate or project their life expectancy to be so much longer than ours, and it is. Because they're not being worried to death. Worried to death. Every time you can't pay a bill, every time the cost of living goes up, they turn the pressure up. It's like a knob. It's like a it's like a gauge where they could turn the pressure up by just simply increasing the cost of living while keeping your wages the same. Every time they turn that cost of living up, but then go on television so you can see them legislate about your ability to afford the increase in the cost of living. They want you to see them legislate so sloppily, so hesitantly about your ability to afford these increases in the cost of living. They go, oh, no, we not going to raise these wages. These wages don't need to raise. Why are we raising the wages? Any logical person would say because you've increased the cost of living so that people can continue to afford the increase in the cost of living without enduring any stress or worrying to death. You would increase their wages. But they want you to worry to death. So you watch in anticipation to see if they are logically going to increase your wages to accommodate the increase in the cost of living. And every time you see them go, nah, we're not going to do it this time. Hey, let's have another meeting. Each time adds a little more worry to your death. Each time that landlord calls you for that rent that you know you don't have the money for, more worry to death. Every time you get that bill notice about a light bill, a gas bill, a phone bill, there's a little bit more worry to your death. I watched my mother cry every time a bill came that she couldn't afford. That's a physical expression of the worry to death. Not being able to afford the food for yourself, let alone your family, feeding your family. Not being able to feed your family adds more worry to your death. Each time you go to a job interview and they say, no, no, thank you. Oh, sorry, sorry. More worry to your death. Stress adds to your worry to death. Each time these police officers kill someone from our community, and they want all of us to see it. That's why they pull it. That's why they televise it. Because they're trying to inflict that worry to death on our whole community of people. So they say, yeah, we gotta televise that. That's gonna make all of them worry to their death. So you see how the police are able to violate us so with so much insensitivity, no feelings towards the value of our life. That's more worry to your death. And then they trial the cops in the court of their law, where they have more advocates of the white agenda sitting there as the judge, who already knows what his decision is going to be, because he knows the decision that he's going to render is going to add more worry to your death. No, we're not going to indict these cops. Every time we all see that, it adds more worry to all of our death. This is a sophisticated strategy, my peoples. Worry to death is not figurative. It's very literal. Worry to death. Each time they make another movie and show us how we were so-called slaves and dragged here from our freedom and our homeland, they know that adds more worry to your death. That's why they like making those movies. That's why they like making movies about segregation and showing our ancestors being hung on trees and burnt. That's why they keep these pictures around. Each time we see one of these pictures collectively, it adds to the worry to our death. It's not by accident. This is all part of a very sophisticated scheme, a sophisticated strategy where they don't have to be seen physically touching us, but they have their hand all they have their hands all over the controls of the conditions that are injecting the stress into each of our lives that's adding to our worry to death. Worry to death. Communities of color are being worried to death. They showed a news segment where they said the life expectancy, they expect our life to be 3 years shorter than it was, because they know they done turned up the pressure for the stress that adds to our worry to death. They got it figured out to a science. But becoming aware of it is the first step in correcting it. You have to just make yourself not react to the conditions they set around you for you to worry to death. If you can't pay a bill, then that bill just can't be paid. That's how you have to look at it. If you can't pay your rent, that rent just can't be paid. Have faith in the Most High. He will make a way for you to get through life in the way He wants you to get through it without you having to worry yourself to death. God always makes a way. But these advocates of the white agenda with this clever strategy, I just have to smile a lot of times when I discover the things that they're doing. And they legalize it, because you got to remember, the white agenda are all of these people in positions of power who legalize any method that they need to support their cause. They legalize it. They make it part of the law, as long as it's going to help them maintain power, control, and domination over communities of color. It will become a law. And they've figured out how to control the levers of stress within our community. And so they surround us with it. They put it all around us and make sure you have to stay in the middle of it. So that they don't have to lay a hand on you, but still achieve their objective of killing you. They don't have to put a hand on you, but still achieve their objective of killing you by worrying you to death. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Communities of color are being worried to death, Literally. That's deep. Aaron Benjamin Miles. I'm a creative thinker. I'm an intelligent savage. I'm a lot of different things. I'm a regulator. I'm an enforcer. And I'm a disruptor. I'm a regulator. I'm a disruptor. And I'm an enforcer. I keep seeing all these stories of these cops still today continuing to just get away with murdering our people, and they like to broadcast it so that they could do what? Add to our worry to death as a collective group. And this is just our group that they doing it to. Because for some reason they see us as their biggest threat. So they staying on us with these very clever tactics. Now they're going to try to incorporate this divide and conquer tactic. They're going to try to divide the community up so that the community could, end up in a bunch of fragmented little segments and groups. And at that point in time, they'll be able to isolate different segments that they want to go after and attack those segments while they're more vulnerable as a smaller group. This is why they were so surprised and caught off guard with the swelling up of a collective unification of communities of color after the murder of George Floyd by Derek Chauvin. I mean, I have a certain destiny. I have a certain mission. I feel that the Most High sent me here. The ancestors have prepared me. And now I have a certain mission, and I have a limited amount of time to accomplish my goal because I'm already a victim of the worry to death. I feel it. That ulcer is at a stage and it's still there. It's not going to go away. And I'm not going to their doctors because I'm not trusting them with anything where they have that kind of leverage to do what they want to do to me, where they can inject me with anything or cut me with anything. They're going to have to come and do that by force. I'm not going to be a willing victim. But I do have to accept my condition and my fate. So I'm letting you guys know. I have a limited amount of time to do these things that needs to be done for our community. And I'm very committed and engaged towards these goals and objectives. We need more creative thinkers unraveling these sophisticated strategies that they're using against us, like their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. They specifically use those terms because they know those are specifically the things that we need that they made sure we didn't have access to. And only when they're trying to get us to calm down, especially our youth, who those diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are usually aimed at, They use them to calm down our youth, who usually have the most fired up, let's go get them attitudes. 30 minutes. I'm about to end here. Like I said, you may hear some static in the video. That's not anything except YouTube distorting the sound because they have no other options. They can't block my stream because I'm not violating their policy for them to do that. And since I'm speaking in opposition of their white agenda, they have to do whatever they can to try to muzzle me or mute me the best way they can, which in their case, I've noticed they use a filter to add static to the sound to make the video less pleasant to listen to. Again, more worried to death. Hearing that static and something that you're trying to listen to intensely, all of their stuff come out nice and clear, quality. You can hear every piece of the sound that's intended to be heard, right levels, the colors are correct, the clarity, that's tranquility, that's pleasant. Our stuff are blurry, sound has static. You got to fight to get the picture. You're running out of time. The show is almost going off. Worry to death. All of these little things add to your worry to death. Become aware of this tactic that they use without touching you to accomplish their objective of killing you. It's called worry to death. I'm going to leave it there. This is your favorite mayor candidate, Aaron Benjamin Miles. Aaron Benjamin Miles. Before becoming mayor of NYC, my docu-series tracking my progress towards becoming the next 110th mayor of New York City, Aaron Benjamin Miles, Rise of the Good People. Rise of the Good People. Aaron Benjamin Miles, Rise of the Good People. Be mindful to not let them worry you to death. I see you on the next video tomorrow. Try not to worry yourself to death. Yes?